As we all know, the world of recreational drugs has, over the years, become rather popular, hasn't it? Whether or not you care to admit it publicly, chances are that if you're watching this video, you will have experimented within this world, at least to a small degree. The problem is, when it comes to the most interesting and effective drugs, people who choose to partake run the risk of getting in trouble with the law. But what if there was a handy hallucinogenic that you could pick up at your local pharmacy without breaking any laws at all? Well, welcome to the strange world of DXM. As we all know, opium has many medicinal properties. Although it is traditionally associated with pain relief, opium, or derivatives thereof like codeine, can also be used to treat any number of other issues, including respiratory problems such as, say, a really bad cough. Unfortunately, opioids are also incredibly addictive, not to mention physically damaging if taken over a prolonged period. And so, drug manufacturers decided it might be a good idea to come up with a less problematic cough medicine. The result of these exploits is DXM, or dextromethorphan. In much the same way as codeine, which is metabolized into opium, DXM has no effect on the throat or the lungs at all. Instead, it's broken down into dextrofan, or DXO, and that passes through the blood-brain barrier and dampens the body's automatic coughing reflex. Considerably less addictive and easier on the liver than its alternatives, DXM was approved by the FDA in 1958, and although it's often mixed with other active ingredients such as diphenhydramine and levomenthol, it remains a popular over-the-counter remedy to this day. So, what's the problem then? Well, as with many other drugs, DXM is safe and effective when used within the recommended doses, in this case around 15 milligrams, and at those doses it has little to no recreational effect. If, and we are not suggesting that anybody do this by the way, you want to experience something interesting, then you need to raise the dose considerably. The following is a brief description of the various effects that can be achieved with an increased dose. Taking between 100 and 200 milligrams will provide you with an effect not dissimilar to that of taking ecstasy. Symptoms include mild agitation, feeling energized, and being overly talkative. Taking between 200 and 400 milligrams provides you with the experience of being really drunk, impaired motor functions, euphoria, slurred speech, plus the added bonus of occasional and mild hallucinations. From here on in, though, things get more serious. Were you to take between 400 and 600 milligrams of DXM, you could experience similar symptoms to a strong dose of ketamine: disassociation, intense hallucinations, loss of motor control, generalized weakness, and potentially loss of continence, ought to be expected. Fun, recreational last one there. And finally, we have the last stage. Anything over 600 milligrams can really mess you up for a long time. Not only can the effects last for several weeks, in extreme cases, those effects include a trance-like state, vivid hallucinations, out-of-body experiences, and delirium. Although several of these side effects could be considered at best undesirable, many others are highly sought after. Probably not the incontinence one. To give you a better idea of just what sort of effect can be achieved, here are 2 trip descriptions from people who regularly indulge. It's like unlocking some hidden archive of your brain that you didn't even realize existed. For me, it wasn't just about revisiting memories, it was almost like I was reliving them, fully immersed in the moment, with all the emotions, details, and sensations. It felt so real, like I could walk around inside the memory and view it from different angles. Some moments I hadn't thought about in years came flooding back to me. It was wild how vivid they were. What really got me was the emotional clarity. I wasn't just remembering events, I was dissecting them, understanding them in ways I never had before. It felt like I could finally make sense of things that had been buried in my subconscious. It's a deeply introspective experience, but also really surreal, like time and space just don't matter anymore, and you're floating through your own personal history. If this were the only DXM story that you ever heard, then you might think something along the lines of, wow, that's amazing, I'm off to the pharmacy right now. Sadly, like with all such things, there's also a much darker side. This next abstract shows that it's taken from the Poi YouTube channel. Nothing made sense whatsoever. I was no longer human. I was having these strange thought loops that made no sense, and I remember being this tiny thing inside my body, like looping around my blood vessels. I know that makes no sense, but it is the best way I can describe it. The thing was, I felt like I was just getting higher and higher. If I closed my eyes, I would begin to astral project into completely different worlds, not thinking, wow, this is so cool. It was more like I literally have no idea what is going on. My heart rate and blood pressure were through the absolute roof. I remember feeling absolutely sure I was going to die. There was no way my heart was not going to explode or simply stop beating. At one point, I remember coming to 3 possible conclusions. 1, I was going to die. 2, I was already dead and stuck inside some sort of strange limbo afterlife. Or 3, I wasn't human, had never been a human, and never existed, and it was only at this moment that I realized it. Holy dude. That is a trip. Does not sound fun, by the way. That does not sound fun. With such a wide variety of states just waiting to be experienced, and given that a plethora of DXM-containing products such as Robitussin DM, Triminic DM, Benylin DM, and Drioxoral can be purchased over the counter without question in any pharmacy, it's not too difficult to understand why usage of this stuff is on the rise. But how dangerous is it really? Even water's toxic to the human body if we consume it in a large enough volume. Well, like most things we talk about on this channel, it's complicated. DXM on its own, in its pure form, isn't that bad at all, providing that you use it every now and then in sensible doses. In fact, when it was available as the sole active ingredient in the product Romilar, removed from the market during the 60s because the vast majority of people were using it to get high, there were no recorded deaths, or at least none that we could find. The problem starts when it's mixed with other ingredients. Let us use the standard over-the-counter cough mixture known as Delsim as an example, and look at just what else you're getting for your money. According to the packaging, the active ingredients in 20 mils are Acetaminophen, 650 milligrams, that's a pain reliever and fever reducer, Dextromorphin, or HBr, that's 20 milligrams, cough suppressant, Triprodylene, HCI, 2.5 milligrams, and antihistamine. As we can see, by far the most abundant ingredient here is acetaminophen, so let's find out what happens when you have too much of that. Acetaminophen, more frequently sold under the brand name Tylenol, is a standard, safe, over-the-counter pain medication. That is, it's safe as long as you don't take too much. According to medicineplus.gov, too much equals more than 3,000 milligrams in 24 hours, and more than 7,000 milligrams can potentially be fatal. Bearing that in mind, let us once again look at the amount of DXM required to achieve the highest level of intoxication, around 500 milligrams. If you were consuming the previously mentioned example cough medicine, you'd need to drink 500 milliliters of that medicine, and that immediately presents a problem. That 500 mils also contains 16,250 milligrams of acetaminophen, more than double the amount at which it is recommended you seek immediate medical attention. But what about the final active ingredient? How much triprodylene is dangerous? 62.5 milligrams, the amount you'd receive after drinking 500 milliliters of Delsim, is more than 10 times the recommended daily amount and can result in serious neurological issues, coma, and even death. Nevertheless, many people still choose to consume DXM this way, and that, coupled with similar issues caused by mixing it with alcohol or other recreational drugs, is what leads to the majority of deaths or serious injuries. Up until this point, we have only talked about DXM in its over-the-counter form. Although undoubtedly one of the most easy to obtain when it comes to interesting stimulants, many individuals forego using it, if for no other reason than the combination of other drugs it is mixed with. When this comes to making money, though, there are those out there who will stop at nothing, and so it wasn't long before someone discovered that it wasn't really all that difficult to extract pure DXM from over-the-counter mixtures. And now, we should talk about Crystal Dex. You see, before DXM-containing medicines were available in capsule form, it really was necessary to drink a large amount of syrup in order to achieve the required effect. Obviously, capsules made it easier, but you still have to take a large amount of these capsules in order to achieve any effects. Agent Lemon, the street name for the process of refining cough syrup into pure DXM, helped to solve this problem. Now, obviously, we're not going to tell you how to do this. YouTube would get angry, and it also doesn't seem like a very good idea. But a single Google search is going to solve that problem for you. Dextromethorphan containing cough syrup, ordinary household ammonia, naphtha lighter fluid, citric acid, sealed containers, and flexible rubber tubing. That's all you need. The only section of the instructions that will pass on to you is that this does have the potential to go oh so rather wrong, and fatally so. At this point, you might be wondering just where DXM stands then when it comes to legality. Surely such a potentially potent product can't be entirely unrestricted. Well, the thing is, at the time of writing, yeah, it kinda is. For more than 70 years now, DXM has been available in one form or another, freely over the counter. So, are there any plans in the works to make it harder to get? Well, yeah, maybe a few. In 2018, several more states in the United States brought in new laws limiting the sale of DXM-containing products to people over the age of 18, but there are still plenty of places where this is not the case. According to government figures, at least 1 million young people in America regularly experiment with DXM, and just a fraction, over 70% of those, are aged between 9 and 17. As these statistics show, it is still getting into the wrong hands, and there are those out there pushing for it to be made prescription only. In 2021, the Chinese government did just that, and according to most of the available data, it was indeed effective. Centers in the United States cite, among other things, the not inconsiderable costs involved in such a transition. A truly mind-numbing paper, we read it so you don't have to, called Managing Access to Dextromorphin, Cost Implications of a Potential Over-the-Counter to Prescription-Only Conversion, lists some of those costs as incremental physician visits, having to miss work while going to the physician's office, higher DXM drug prices under RX availability, and switching to alternative medication that may be more expensive. The paper suggests the total cost of the switchover, if incremented over a 10-year period, could cost up to $21 to $31 billion. If these figures are correct, then it is unlikely that we shall see this drug become prescription only anytime soon. But is this actually the best solution to the problem? Well, no, probably not. Although raising the purchase age to 18 across the board would, as has been demonstrated in other countries, almost definitely reduce the problem somewhat, making an ordinarily harmless over-the-counter medicine prescription only would not only place it beyond the reach of many individuals, but waste so many doctors' hours in an already stressed system that it does not even bear thinking about. As with many such things, the real answer is going to lie in education. Because it's so easy to obtain, DXM is often thought of as a safe, insignificant high, almost a drug for children who aren't quite ready for the harder stuff. Obviously, because in many places children can actually buy it, this, at least partially, has a ring of truth to it. Often the thought goes something along the lines of, if kids can buy it, I mean, how bad can it be? This misapprehension is the problem. Educating children and young adults on the potential dangers, although by no means 100% effective, is a better option than potentially taking it away from people who genuinely need it. After all, if it is not available in the shops and still has a high demand on the streets, it will simply lead to illegal production and distribution of things like crystal Dex, or even more concerning, users moving to more dangerous substances. Thank you for watching.